Good morning and welcome to the Cancer Cipher Sharon Speaks podcast. I say good morning just out of habit because I always say good morning. It may be nighttime, it may be the middle of the day when you see this, but for me and the time that I am actually doing this particular recording, it's in the morning. So I just wanted to say hello and thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support and when people take time out of their schedules to jump on and listen to this podcast. It really means a lot. It's very important. I feel like this mission that God has blessed me with to just tell my story about living with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. It is extremely difficult and every day is different. Every day is different. So I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But if you're new to this podcast, I just want to welcome you. I hope that you hear something that inspires you and that encourages you and that maybe you learn something new. It's called the Cancer Cipher because when we go to doctors and doctors begin to explain different aspects of our health, they sometimes use terms that we're not familiar with. They use terms that we need to get a clearer understanding of what it means. So that was one of the big things for me when I started having to go through a lot of doctor's appointments and scans and treatments and seeing all types of different doctors. I just sometimes just I got overwhelmed and I didn't know what to absorb. It was just very hard to absorb all that information. So I started to do a lot of research on my own because I wanted to clearly understand what I was dealing with my diagnosis. Statistics do say that just 6% of women are diagnosed with stage 4 cancer on their initial diagnosis. That's a statistic I never really wanted to have in my life, but that's what it is. And unfortunately, statistics also say that 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with cancer, and more men are being diagnosed with breast cancer as well. So it's just something that we have to make ourselves very aware of, make sure we're doing our annual checkups, and even we staying on top of your health. I know people who I thought were extremely healthy and they ended up getting cancer. My father was one of them. And unfortunately, he passed away from cancer. And it was such an eye opener for all of us because he was always so healthy all his life. So cancer is non-discriminatory disease. It doesn't care how tall you are, how short you are, the color of your skin, where you live in the world. Nothing matters. Your economic status, nothing matters. It just does what it does when it wants to. And it's unfortunate. But my goal is to help encourage people and to help people to get a better understanding of what they're dealing with their cancer diagnosis by simply just sharing my personal story and sharing my experiences. And that's what I always tell people. This is just my story and my experiences. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a professional in any of the areas that I talk about on any of my podcasts. I'm just sharing my story and my experiences. Um, so I do hope that you will uh, click like or subscribe, share this podcast with someone who may have cancer. Follow, leave me a comment. I really like to hear from people, and I've really been getting a lot of feedback. And I really thank you all for sharing comments with me, because a lot of people like actually contact me directly. So I'm very excited that people are listening and getting um, you know positive feedback on my part, but they're grateful that someone is just sharing information and they're learning things that they did not know. So, on my last podcast, I was talking about caregivers and sharing the experience of a back surgery that I had to endure as a result of a complication from cancer. So I did have at the end of 2023, I had a lower lumbar laminectomy with fusion. And what that means is I had two herniated discs in my L5S1 area, as well as spinal stenosis, which means the spinal column, instead of being open, it closed in and put pressure on everything on the nerves. So I was having terrible, terrible sciatica. If anyone has ever had sciatica, they know that when it hits you, it is 24/7. It never stops. It hurts unbelievably. And nothing seems to relieve the pain. And the sciatica continued for about 3 months on and off before I had the surgery. But I did get to a point where I lost my ability to walk, and I was terrified. I was terrified. I couldn't get out of bed. The pain was horrific, horrific, and it was a very excruciating period of time to go through. And I, I wish I could just give you a better description, but it was just terrible. And if you've ever had sciatica, you understand what I mean. And if you haven't had it, I hope you never get it, because it's just a terrible thing to experience. In relation to caretakers, though, and caregivers, um, caregivers, I pointed out in my last episode that um, caregivers or caretakers, however you want to describe them, they possess like very strong emotion. They're very strong emotionally, and they are able to manage grief and stress. And a lot of times it's family members, and they find themselves being the ones who become the caretakers. So in my family, my mother was my father's caretaker because he had cancer. She became, although they were married, had been married for 55 years, I think, at that point. Uh, but it took it to another level. She always cared for my father, but when you have to take care of someone in a medical condition, it puts things on a whole nother level. So she was his caretaker, and now daddy has passed away, and my brother is mother's primary caretaker, and I help where I can. Due to the fact that I have stage 4 cancer, I'm not able to do as much, but thank God that my brother is able to help mother. He is her caretaker or caregiver. He helps, and it's a blessing when you have family that understands, that is empathetic and caring and compassionate, and is able to provide constant support for someone who is in dire need of help. And there's challenges, when a person is a caregiver. Unfortunately, there's times that they can neglect their own health, their own personal business, their own lifestyle. They make great sacrifices to take care of people that they love. So I wanted to just bring that up again because it's so important, and it's such a genuine, heartfelt thing to be a caregiver, and you're a blessing. So if you're listening to this podcast and you care for someone, God bless you, because it's very difficult to deal with someone who is who needs you all the time. But my faith has helped me as well, and at times I read a lot of healing scriptures that help me to just stay encouraged. And I want to share a couple of those with you. Like Psalms 147:3 says, He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And James 5:14-15 says, Is any among you sick? Let them call the elders of the church to pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered of faith will make the sick person well, and the Lord will raise them up. Isaiah 40:29 says, He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. So I love those scriptures because they're encouraging, and they say a lot to a person who is in pain, who's brokenhearted, who's sick, who's terminally ill, who's chronically ill. Any type of encouragement helps because it's like a ray of sunshine that makes you feel just a little bit better. So I always like to share scriptures. You all know that. And you know my favorite one, Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together for the good, for those who love the Lord and who are be called according to his purposes. And I love that because the good and the bad work together. And I say that because right now I'm doing a good thing by having this podcast. But the bad thing is I'm in a lot of pain as I sit here and talk to you. And I'm determined that I'm going to get through this podcast and then I'll lay down. But sometimes the pain medications don't kick in. I am actually in pain management, and pain management is where I have a medical professional who watches my health very closely, and she prescribes specific medications to try to help manage my pain. And the thing about my type of cancer, because it's in my bones, it's extremely difficult to manage. So I'm not going to focus on the pain. I'm going to focus on sharing information, and but that's just part of my story. So I have to bear with it, and it's okay. You know, we just have to take things one day at a time. You know, that's why practicing self-care is so important. On the days where I'm feeling good, I try to, do things to help myself feel good and prepare for the days where I'm not feeling good and I'm in a lot of pain. So, for example, I got up this morning and, my pain was so bad, I didn't think I was going to be able to get out of the bed. As I walked across the bedroom to the bathroom, my knees and legs and back, the pain was just excruciating. And I was like, what happened? What'd I do? I didn't do anything. That's just it. It's just the effect of the cancer in my bones. And it's just something that I have to live with, but it's okay. But what I wanted to share with you today also was a complication that I am still dealing with from the surgery that I had, the back surgery that I had, the lower lumbar laminectomy. And I was telling you that the laminectomy is where they actually go into the spine. And fortunately, there was not cancer in that area of the bone, because if there was cancer in that area of bone where I have the herniated disc and the spinal stenosis, if there was cancer in that area, they would not have been able to do the surgery because the bone would already be in a deterioration state. So I was extremely grateful that they were able to do the surgery. So what happens is when you're in the surgery, they take a piece of the bone and they send it to pathology right away while they have you on the table doing the process. And the pathologists, they read the tissue sample, bone sample, to see if there's cancer in it, and they let the doctor know while he's in the process of doing the surgery. So um, they know if they can complete the surgery successfully or not. Fortunately, I was able to get the surgery. So there's metal plates and there's a spacer to hold the vertebrae open, as well as screws to hold the plates in place. So that's what's at the lower part of my spine. And now a complication that I have is scar tissue. Scar tissue develops from the surgical procedure, but it causes extreme pain in the lower back where I've had the surgery. So that's a complication that I didn't know about. So I'm just sharing my experience, letting people know, that that is one thing that, happened to me with my back surgery. And it has caused me a grave bit of pain and complication, as well as the good thing is the sciatica pain stopped with the surgery, which was such a blessing. But in place of that, um, I developed peripheral vascular disease, or neuropathy. I should say peripheral vascular neuropathy. And that is a condition where the nerves outside of the spinal cord, they're called peripheral nerves, are damaged, often due to issues with blood flow in the vascular system. And this can lead to numbness, tingling, pain, weakness. And that's primarily for me in my left uh, side of my body, my left leg, from my buttocks down the back of my leg, down the back of my calf to my foot. Ever since the surgery, well, once I've had the surgery, I had to go through physical therapy to learn how to walk again. So I was in rehab for almost 5 weeks, doing extensive physical therapy and learning how to walk again. And it was a scary time and a very vulnerable time because I didn't know how to process all of that. It was so overwhelming to go through the surgery and then to be in a rehab center. I think I mentioned in my last podcast, I was away from home for a couple of months in medical care because I was trying to get better. And it's scary because you're, around people that you don't know. You have to trust people because they're taking care of you, they're giving you medication. You have to just pray and try to pray. I did a lot of praying. So that's why I say that. And it was just very scary for me because I felt isolated. I felt alone. I felt like I wasn't going to get better, but I kept telling myself to get better. I tried to stay positive, and it's very hard to continually try to self encourage. But thank God for my friends and family, that did spend time with me, and I'm eternally grateful for that because I was very scared, honestly. I mean, that's all I can say. I was vulnerable. And the odd thing also, the medications, I've never had diabetes, but the medication that I was taking in the hospital shot my blood sugars up to like 300 and 400. So I had to start taking insulin. They had to give me insulin shots in my stomach. And that was a whole nother experience. So for those of you that have diabetes, God bless you. My heart goes out to you because to have to do those shots every day, 3 or 4 times a day, it's mind boggling. By the time I left the hospital, my whole stomach and the back of my arms were so bruised up because they were running out of spaces to give me shots, and my fingertips were just a mess because they have to stick your fingers to test for your blood to see what your blood counts are. So it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. So, these experiences are so difficult and deeply personal that I share. So you have to excuse me if sometimes I get a little flustered because it's just really, it was a difficult time. But the information about the peripheral vascular neuropathy, um, I got that information from Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic were my references. You all know I like to always give references because those are two top cancer institutions. So they do share a lot of good information. So for me, my neuropathy is in my left leg down to my foot, and it can cause a range of symptoms, such as I said, the numbing or numbness and tingling, burning or stabbing pain, and the opposite, extreme sensitivity. So even like light touches, or if the blanket lays on my leg a certain way, it's very sensitive and it causes discomfort. The burning and stabbing pain can just happen, just like I can be laying down or even walking, and all of a sudden that burning and stabbing pain happens. Muscle weakness. I have to walk with a cane because I do have weakness in the legs. So I have a loss of balance and a loss of coordination at times. And I've had falls because of that. And it makes it very difficult to move my leg properly sometimes, or even walk properly sometimes. So, no more high heels. I don't get to wear high heels anymore. The cute shoes. So, I wear cute tennis shoes now, sports shoes, because I can't wear heels anymore, and I miss heels. So, I have to be very careful of the type of shoes that I wear, and just for my own safety. And that's another reason caregivers are so important because they do help with the safety of the person that they're looking after. They make sure that their conditions are safe, their surroundings are safe. They make sure that the person uh, doesn't fall. Make sure that they use their equipment correctly. So there's so many aspects uh, of, again, what a caretaker does and how they help us so much. Um, so again, another good reference for you is Hopkins Medicine. Johns Hopkins is another uh, outstanding cancer institution in the country, and they also have good references. So I like to tell you these references so you can go find information about your type of cancer. Although I'm talking about neuropathy right now, it's a result of a result of a result of my cancer. So I always like to share references. And so since I have the neuropathy, I had to start seeking treatments for that among everything else. Although I did a lot of physical therapy, and physical therapy is one of the treatments for neuropathy, it is just something that can help strengthen the muscles, and can help with coordination. It can help with balance, and it can help to reduce discomfort. Um, Pain patches, I do use pain patches, topical sprays or creams to help with the pain. Medications, I take oral medications that help with the burning and the shooting pain and the numbness. So there's a lot of things that can help. And there's also something called, if anyone's had physical therapy, you've heard of a TENS unit. It's called a transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. TENS is acronym TENS. So that's a non-invasive therapy that uses mild electrical currents to stimulate the nerves. So that's usually done in physical therapy when you go to the facility. A physical therapist does that. That's not something I do on my own. And so another thing about the neuropathy is it has changed my lifestyle. So I have to learn, I talked about not being able to wear high heels, but it's changed my lifestyle. It's changed the way I walk, going up and down steps, getting in and out of a car, getting in and out of the shower. There's just so many aspects of my life that have been changed, even sitting down on the couch or getting in and out of the bed. All the things that we take for granted are all things that I have to constantly think about. I have to think about how I'm sitting in this chair, because if I sit in the chair the wrong way, then it's going to cause me pain. It's so every little thing I have to think about. I have to be careful when I go to the bathroom. I have to be careful stepping in and out of the shower. Thank God I have a walk-in shower, because I can't step over a tub safely because I could fall. And that has happened before. So that's not something I want to go through again. So it's just, so much involved, so much involved. But I'm grateful for every day. I'm grateful that, you know, there's options for treatments out there. There's even some people even actually try acupuncture. They like acupuncture. Me, I'm, me and needles, they make me nervous. But I did try a spinal block the last time I was in the hospital. That was an experience. I was in the surgical room and I had to lay on my stomach, and the doctor inserted a needle with the medication, and how he found the right nerve, I'll never know. That's why I'm thank God for doctors. But he did find the right nerve, and when he inserted the needle, I could feel it all the way down to my toes. So I knew he found the right spine, excuse me, not spine, but the right nerve coming off of my spine to inject the medication to help alleviate the pain. Will I do that again? I don't know, because, I had to have medication to, I wasn't fully knocked out, but I was sedated, and he did deaden the area where he was working. But it was interesting. It was very interesting, and I couldn't imagine doing that too many times unless my pain was just so unbearable and I just didn't have a choice. So anyway, that these experiences are really hard for me to talk about. So thank you for letting me talk about them. I hope they um, help you to get a better understanding just of a few things that may help you, especially the references. So remember, the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins. And then for peripheral um, neuropathy, the Foundation for Peripheral Neuropathy is another good reference, as well as Healthline. Healthline is a good reference. So, uh, my question that I asked the doctor was, will the neuropathy ever go away? And after surgery, sometimes neuropathy can improve, but it depends on what caused it and the severity of the nerve damage. In some cases, nerves can regenerate over time, leading to a partial or full recovery. However, if the damage is extensive, symptoms may persist indefinitely. So that's not me talking, that is Cleveland Clinic reference that I just read. So it just really depends on different factors. It depends on the cause of the neuropathy. It depends on the time since the surgery, what treatment approaches have been taken, underlying conditions. So since I have cancer, that's a huge underlying condition. And so I literally have to take it one day at a time, because that's just the best thing for me to do, is to take it one day at a time. And I'm sorry, I'm really in a lot of pain. But so I'm sorry. The key is that you get to see, firsthand that I struggle with pain. And a lot of women show their scars from their cancer. They show where they've had surgery. Uh, if they've had mastectomy, or if they've had to have a hysterectomy, or lymph nodes removed. All the different types of surgeries that women and men have to have when they have certain types of cancer, where they can have surgery. And my heart breaks when I see those scars. But for me, people look at me and say, "Oh, you look so good. I never would have known you had cancer." It's like, no. And that's painful for me, because I have to kind of explain everything that's happening with me is happening on the inside. And because I'm stage 4, I couldn't have surgery. Number one, the insurance companies wouldn't pay for it because they don't feel like it would be beneficial because it's already advanced to stage 4. So basically, you know, I'm going to pass away, so they're not going to pay for the surgery. So live with that every day. So that's why I have my faith and I trust God. And I do this podcast to help people, to encourage people, to give people good resources. As my dogs bark, I love them. And dogs are great um, sources of companionship to help you when you're dealing with uh, pain or chronic illnesses. So, anyway, there must be a car outside. But before we finish, I want to go into my Read Me When. And Read Me When is where I pull out a one of my little scriptures here, and I'm gonna share this with you as the dogs are barking. So this encourages me, and I only share these with you when I am on a podcast. And this one says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. That's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. So I just want to thank you for taking time to listen to the Cancer Cipher, Sharon Speaks, and for sharing my journey with me. I hope you have a blessed day. And I'm going to go see what the dogs are barking at, because that's the thing about a live recording. Anything can happen. So I hope you have a great day and be blessed.